Hello, this is Edward Gray, presenting my dissertation research proposal, supporting students receiving special education services transition from a secondary to a post-secondary setting. The purpose of this study is to determine if consistent supports in creating transition plans will result in increased access to post-secondary settings for students receiving special education services. One major finding in this study comes from the journal Career Development and Transition for Exceptional Individuals, titled A Framework for Research in Transition, Identifying Important Areas and Intersections for Future Studies. This journal article was published in February of 2020. One piece that stands out is from Trainer, who suggests that too many young people with disabilities are still not experiencing outcomes aligned with their personal aspirations and priorities. Individuals with disabilities continue to experience barriers to employment, educational, economic, and other challenges well into adulthood. The qualitative research question for this study is, what supports positively affect a student's transition to a post-secondary setting? The theoretical framework chosen is Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, specifically using the zone of proximal development, ZPD. Working within the ZPD is inherently motivating because it involves the transfer of responsibility or control for learning from the teacher to the learner. This transfer of control is motivating for the student as it acknowledges student mastery of the task and the learner's developing efficacy. Interaction within the ZPD is also likely to lead to stimulating the learner's interest in the task as the learner comes to value and appreciate the knowledge which is valued by a respected, more capable person. The conceptual framework looks to Locke's goal-setting theory of motivation. The goal-setting theory of motivation states that specific and challenging goals, along with appropriate feedback, contribute to higher and better task performance. In simple words, goals indicate and give direction about what needs to be done and how much efforts are required to be put in. Specifically, the study is looking to provide suggestions on improving goal-setting skills for both teachers and students that will lead to an increase in positive post-secondary transitions for students receiving special education services. The narrative research approach is used because it allows the researcher to determine how an individual's story illustrates the larger life influences that created it. This research type can also reconcile conflicting stories and highlight tensions and challenges, which can be opportunities for innovation. The participants in this study are as follows. Students who receive special education services and have graduated within the past 4 years, parents or guardians of the selected students, and special education teachers who are responsible for creating and implementing transition plans. The selection for each form of data, artifacts will provide data on the organization and goal setting for student transition plans. Interviews will be in narrative format based on objective and subjective questions. And the focus group will lead to discussion and clarification of findings. Forms of qualitative data are artifacts which will be analyzed to determine commonalities, evidence of goal setting, and completion of documents. Interviews will provide narrated details of experiences and perspectives of students, teachers, and parents about the transition plan process. The focus group will determine if there are any common findings between the groups. Also, this is an opportunity to clarify and correct any discrepancies in the coding. For the data analysis, artifacts will be analyzed, transcribed, and open coded. Interviews will use the common themes from the artifacts as a starting point for open coding to axial. Selective coding will then begin. Focus groups, the responses will be axial to selective coding. Color coding, transcripts, and sticky notes will be used to organize the data from open to selective coding. The trustworthy techniques, credibility will use triangulation and member checking. Transferability will use sufficiently thick description of context. Dependability will still use audit trail and peer debriefer. And confirmability will use, again, triangulation and peer debriefer. Ethical considerations of the study will include signed and stored implied consent forms for each participant. For added security, numbers and letters will be assigned to each participant. The assigned numbers and letters will be used when coding and reporting. Data will be stored on a password-protected drive, and hard copies will be stored in a locked file cabinet. All information will remain confidential. Numbers and letters will be used. Participants will remain anonymous. This concludes my research proposal. I want to thank you, and this is the time for questions that you might have about my research.